Action? Is that action right there? All right. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Streamophile, you already know what it is. These are your hosts, Ben and John. Today we're talking about Vengeance on Peacock. John, what happens before we start talking movie? Huh?
DJ,
Huh?
drop that intro.
Welcome to Streamophile, the show where John and Ben watch the latest on all streaming platforms and let you know whether to stream it or skip it. We stream everything, so you don't have to.
Like I said, we're talking about Vengeance on Peacock today. It's a movie that I recommended, right? That I gave you the shout out of to watch on Peacock, obviously, right? I
I
told you.
believe so. Yeah. hmm
Yeah. Because we rotate weeks. Like you recommend two, I recommend two, and then we do our shows. So yeah, man. It's a BJ Novak original. He wrote it, directed, started it. Um, John, what did you think when you hear Vengeance? What did you think the movie was going to be about? I think that's a better question than just going into the synopsis, right?
Yeah. Before we go into the synopsis and the cast, I'll tell you that I heard Vengeance. You didn't tell me it was. I don't think you told me it was BG Novak. Maybe you did, but I'm envisioning a Liam Neeson type of movie. This is the fourth episode in a row I
Mhm.
brought Liam Neeson into this, and it's
Yes,
not going to stop.
it's
I think this is the
impossible. Yeah,
running theme.
100%,
But that's what you think. You think
100%.
Vengeance. You think Liam Neeson, you think Reacher, you think someone is going to avenge, you know, their wife's death, their wife and their puppy's death, right? You think John Wick Part 7. That's what that name evokes. So
Yeah,
I was picturing something along those lines.
yes,
And I was like, but it can't be that, right? Not with BJ Novak. What are
mm-hmm.
we watching here? What is this going to be about?
Exactly.
So to tell
Yeah,
you what it's about is
100%,
100%.
100%,
Absolutely. To tell you what it's about, it's BJ BJ
100%,
Novak 100% plays a journalist from New York who is trying to
100%,
find his voice. Yeah, 100%.
100%.
He's trying to find his voice. He's trying to start a podcast, right? Everyone has there's new media and he wants to be more than just a writer. He wants to have a voice. He wants to be able to have his own podcast. And so he gets a call in the middle of the night. Some girl he used to hook up with that she's passed away. Her brother calls him, and so he comes up with
Mhm.
he goes down there because of the family.
From
Yeah, from
Texas.
Texas. So the brother won't let it go. So he's
Mhm,
like, okay, I'll fly down there. She's just a number in the phone. So I just go down there. And once he gets down there, he discovers that the family is a
mhm,
cast of characters. He calls his friend, who's apparently now his editor, and he pitches
mhm,
her this story about what he's going to write. The family, the story, the fact that they are convinced about everything is a conspiracy theory, and that's the new America, and that's the story he wants to tell. And so that's the journey that the movie takes you on. And I did mention BJ Novak, so that
yeah,
was a maybe not a quick synopsis, but it's synopsis. It's how I
yeah, it's a
how
rundown.
I viewed what it was about. You know that this, or at least what you think it's going to be about. The cast for this one is like I said, BJ Novak. He
Issa
wrote,
Rae, BJ
produced,
Nova,
directed it.
yeah,
Boyd Holbrook, you might know
everything.
him from
Yeah.
Narcos, the big one. That was like I think maybe
Yes,
where
you
he
know,
got his
the
big
best
break.
one, the best season. Yeah, the best
And
season of
Ashton
Narcos.
Kutcher, the best season of Narcos, and Ashton Kutcher,
Yeah,
who
nice little.
I I liked this role there. That was a
Would you
big
consider
role for him.
what Ashton Kutcher had in this movie more like a cameo? Because he wasn't like a top billing character, right? Like he obviously had like he was almost like Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder. You know what I mean? He
No,
was
a
more in the
cameo
movie.
is a few seconds. You might not even have a line. Like even John Mayer, I wouldn't call that a cameo. And John Mayer is at the opening scene of this
We're gonna have
movie
to. I'm gonna have to look
having a
into like what
conversation.
that is then, because he had like I guess supporting role, right? I guess supporting
He's
role
a
is more accurate.
supporting role.
Yeah, I thought he was really good, man. I liked it almost felt like a like a character. Like I always have trouble with that word. Like a caricature of what people would think Ashton Kutcher is, right? Some like smart talk. You know what I mean? Like some like smart talking. Like I remember he did a pod with Dak Shepard, and it went viral that him and Mila Kunis like don't wash their like don't make their kids take a bath every day.
Right. Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? So like it kind of was he kind of was like a version of that. I thought this movie look that's that was you gave the synopsis what you that's basically what I thought too. I thought it was gonna be good Liam Neeson, but then I saw BJ Novak, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh no, this isn't anything action. Like
Just
BJ Novak
there's
can't
got to
do
be
action.
some satire, right? There's got to be a funny
Yeah,
movie.
yeah. I mean, he isn't he like the person who brought over The Office to the U.S. Like he was one
Right.
of the
He
people
was
who was like
a
behind.
writer, a producer, a director
Yeah,
on that show as well. Yeah.
yeah. Shout out to
I
BJ
don't know
Novak,
if he
man.
was a
Really having a
creator of The Office, but I know he was a writer.
no.
He was in that
Ricky
writer's
Gervais
room.
was the original creator of The
Right.
Office, and yeah, in England. All right. So, dude, I thought Boyd Holbrook was hilarious in this. You know what I mean?
I
Like
know.
his like weird intensity. You know what I mean? We're like up until when we get into the spoiler talk, like up until that part, like I really thought I was with BJ. I was like, yo, like this is just a conspiracy theory. This is what the new America is, and all this stuff. And
Absolutely.
oh, I thought Holbrook was hilarious. I thought BJ
100%.
Novak 100%. I thought BJ Novak, like his want to be famous was like there's an honesty there, and then it was also cool like seeing the like how big podcasts are, where like Issa Rae's character is like a producer, right? So and
Hmm.
there's like a whole building that does production now for podcasts. So you see all these people like they show quickly like all these people in like little cubicles with their headphones on and microphones shooting a different one podcast or another. It was just it's crazy. It was such a good movie. I think I already spoiled what my take is, but what you got, Jay?
Yeah, no, and by the way, thanks. You mentioned Issa Rae just now, and earlier I didn't mention her when I did the rundown of the cast, so thank you for bringing her up. Her role
Mm-hmm.
as Eloise, his BJ Novak's or Ben, the character he plays, Ben's editor slash
Oh
producer
man,
slash friend slash she's the it girl running the most popular podcast in the
yeah,
country.
she's the number one
Based
showrunner. Yeah,
yeah, in that in the movie.
mm-hmm.
So she was good. I loved her character as well. The movie I had high expectations just because I think of BJ Novak's track record. So
Mm-hmm.
once I found out he was in it, I'm like, okay, so this isn't going to be Liam Neeson at 75 with a broken hip trying to
Yeah,
rescue his daughter for the
remember?
eighth time.
Yeah, trying to
I
remember. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean from the opening scene, the conversations that it's John Mayer. At first I'm looking and I'm like that guy. I was like that can't be him, right? Is he?
yeah.
Oh, that is
No.
John. I was like, okay, John Mayer's trying to do his Harry Connick Jr. going from music into acting, and that's what he's doing now. Okay, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
thought I wouldn't even call that a cameo. That conversation was what 4 minutes? That entire
Yeah.
back and
Yeah.
forth between them.
100%.
I thought that was hilarious. Yeah, 100%. I thought it
And
was hilarious, and but that was all you heard of him. Like that, he was there for 4 minutes, and then he was gone because BJ goes on or Ben goes down to Texas to the this girl's funeral. The story that it tells, which is we all want to be famous. Hell, you and I are doing a
yes,
podcast right now. This is
right
our
now. Yeah.
voice. We want our voice to be heard. I want to tell
Yeah.
you my opinion on this movie, and you're gonna goddamn take it, and then you're gonna watch it, stream it, skip it, Wild Wild West, and
Yep.
whatever the hell I tell you to do. That's what you're gonna do. And so
Hmm.
that's what this
Exactly.
movie's about, right? It's the new America where, especially since the pandemic, everybody has a podcast. Every
100%.
idiot, you and I, just says, you know
Hmm.
what? We got a computer, we got mics,
Yep.
headphones. Let's throw something in the background and make it look like we know what we're doing and start talking
Yep.
about
Put some
something,
lights up.
anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously he's a journalist, but he sees the rise of this new medium, and he wants his voice to just not be in the New Yorker, where the magazine he writes for, but he wants to be a podcast host because it seems like
Hmm.
everyone and their mom has one, and so it's not just about the story. The fact is that the movie, the point it gets to is that he gets down there, he finds out or thinks that everyone thinks everything's a conspiracy, right? Because Boyd Holbrook tells him, "Hey, she didn't just die; she was murdered,"
Murdered.
and
Yeah.
that's the movie. You go on this wild goose chase of where he's like, "I got this story. This family thinks this conspiracy about this girl, and she just died of an OD because that's what happens. People who do drugs die of ODs." And
Yep.
so he goes on to try to discover his voice and tell this story from his point of view and how he writes, which he's a satire writer, and so he's trying to use his family to create a cast of characters to then turn it into a podcast, just like everyone else in the country is doing. And in the end,
Hmm.
as his editor Issa Rae tells him in the beginning, it's about finding your voice, not necessarily telling a story, but the being able to connect with people and knowing who you are first, which is the trip that this movie takes you on. Boyd Holbrook's character
Mm.
was Ty. He
Yeah.
plays Ty Shaw. He's the brother of Abilene, the girl that died. He looked he was on Adderall. Like I
Yeah.
don't know if he was Adderalled out
Yeah.
or methed out, but his eyes like are bugging out the entire time. His
Yeah.
hair is a mess all over the place when he's not
The
wearing his
entire time.
cowboy hat. And he's I'm a person that makes eye contact when I talk to people, but he had this crazy intensity, like you said, this weird intensity, and
Yeah.
with the bugged out eyes, with the eye contact. I thought he played that role incredibly well.
Perfect.
So I've
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
seen him in
Hundred
something like
percent.
that.
No, 100%. All right. Before I want to say a couple things about what you said. Like this movie, it starts out like and thinking about it now, right? Because I saw it like probably a week ago. I think it was like replaying it in my mind. Like it really started with like it's never enough. Like that's the vibe I got, right? Like he's a staff writer. He's not like a contributor writer for the New
Hmm.
Yorker. For the New Yorker, even though the family in Texas keeps saying New
New
York
York
Magazine,
Magazine.
he goes, he'd always say New Yorker. Like he'd always like add a little thing at the bottom. Like
Hmm.
it wasn't enough. Like you see where he lives, he has a very nice apartment in New York, so you know he's doing well for himself, right? Like, but it's just not enough, and it's that's also the journey that he goes through, where like he nothing's ever enough, but he feels superior to people because he lives in New York. That he's you know what I mean. He
That's
gives
right.
off that like East Coast
He's a
bias and all that
journalist.
shit. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
he's a journalist, so like he thinks he knows better than everybody. So like the little idiosyncrasies that they do was really interesting. Um, for me, I always kind of give it away like as soon as I start talking about any show or movie. This is definitely a streamer for me. This is
Yeah,
a streamer for me without question. Hopefully, if at some point I'm gonna get a skip it, which would probably be a Liam Neeson movie. But
maybe.
yeah, this is just a really well done movie. We're gonna get into spoilers here in a little bit, but John, I want your take and what you think. Is it stream it, skip it, or Wild Wild West it?
No, I think you should absolutely stream it for all the reasons that I laid out earlier, and and what you said. This is it's a fun watch. It's if you like satire, if you like comedy, but not Will Ferrell, physical
Yep.
laugh like that type of comedy. There's just
Hangover.
different type of
Yep.
comedy. This
Yep.
is such a good movie. I like the story it tells because it does tell a story of what we're seeing right. As far as people, there's so much information out there that we can just say, you know what, forget the experts, forget what everyone knows. This is a conspiracy. It's the government.
Yep.
It's the cartels. Everyone's working together, and that's why my sister died. So,
Yep.
and then it tells that story in a very hilarious way. There are some parts that are just funny, and some that are just if you just listen to the conversation, dialogue back and forth. It's these are just great interactions, and that's the part that I liked. Right, it wasn't an action movie. There is a lot of
Yep.
dialogue, and then the comedy and the funny parts are in that dialogue and the conversations and interactions between all these characters. So stream it 100%.
Yep. 100%. All right, guys. Complete disclaimer here. From this moment on, we're going to be talking spoilers because it's very hard to talk about this movie and go in depth and not go into spoilers and ruin it for you if you haven't seen it. So take it, pause it right here, come back to our YouTube channel and or our all our streaming content, all our places where we have the podcast, and then give us your review on what you think about our spoiler talk and where we go more in depth. But you have 5 seconds, 4 seconds, three, two, one.
That was uncalled for.
I just want to leave it up there. No, it wasn't. Actually, it felt good. I can see why you do it. Yo, man. All
Hmm.
right, let's go right into bro. Like the this movie was fucking amazing. Like like this movie was. I had to like go f bomb right off the bat. I
Yeah.
thought this movie because it's you don't know what to expect. Like I did not see the twist coming. Like I did not. You know what I mean? Like I did not see that coming. Like I thought, like okay, he's just gonna be a selfish journalist all the way through and mock. You know what I mean? And like mock these
Yeah.
like small country folk, and then just take advantage of them, and then monetize the fuck out of them, and then go
Hmm.
from there. Like I did not see this happening. I did not see that twist coming. Like I didn't. Did you? Because you last time we talked, you said that you saw the twist coming. Did you see this one coming? Like you got? Did you see what was gonna happen? Did you see that
So
final big twist?
we talk about Ashton Kutcher, and you mentioned that you're talking about, oh, he had a cameo. No, it wasn't a cameo. I mean, he was the guy, and
Mm-hmm.
he shows up, I believe, three different times in the movie. And the first one
Yep.
is, when Ben visits him at his studios, outside of the town that he's visiting, and he drives out to his studios and he has this conversation with him, and he thinks that he's wearing cowboy hat just like everyone else, and boots and all this, and he expects him to be this sort of uneducated, or maybe just another guy who's trying to take advantage of the locals there because everyone wants to be a star. So he's like, well, let me make money by telling everyone
Yep.
they can become a superstar. And what was the catchphrase? Making dreams come true since
Since
2018. That's the
yep.
tagline for his
Yep.
studio.
I was just
And
about
so
to say that. Yes.
obviously off the bat, he's like, oh, this guy's a clown. What a clown show! But he's trying to exploit these people. And he
Mm-hmm.
goes there and he finds out that, oh no, this guy is like, he's deep. That conversation
Yeah.
that he has with that girl that's recording, who's her voice isn't coming through. It's just she's singing, but it's flat, or it's monotone, or there's no emotion. And then he goes on this explanation about how we're just not these words, but we're like a speck in this
Yep.
vastness, and you want to leave your mark, and then look at it from telling your story and leaving your mark on this earth, and that's how you
Yep.
sing. And then she goes and belches out this great song, and then they have that
100%.
conversation, and yeah, 100%. And then Ben's eyes are opened to that, and so I was like, oh wow, okay. Then he makes a second appearance, and I'm thinking, oh, this dude is involved somehow, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not
Mm-hmm.
going to end
Mm-hmm.
well. now
Yep.
now him getting shot in the head by Ben at the end in the
Yeah.
tent
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the opium den.
Did not see that coming.
No, did not see that
I saw him
coming.
walking
i
out. I
i
saw
thought,
him
yeah,
walking out of that den. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I thought that maybe, I thought that, okay, I think Ashton Kutcher, I was like, this dude might be pushing. Like the second time, I'm like, oh, this is the perfect cover. He's running a studio. They get shown at some point in the movie. The sheriff, I think it was the sheriff, shows Ben the the boxes of how they stack the pills, and I was like, oh, okay, this guy. You
Except
have no idea, but you're like, okay, he's running a studio, but it's the perfect cover to be able to like
yep.
push drugs out. And then at the end, obviously, you show up to the tent, to the after party, and he's got boxes upon boxes of was it oxy? What the hell were they? I don't even remember what they were.
Some kind of pills. Yeah, I
They
don't remember.
OD'd, and I was not surprised that he was the bad guy, I guess, quote unquote. But I was surprised that he got shot in the head, or in the neck and head. Yeah,
Yeah,
that caught me completely off guard.
bro. Like, did you jumping back in the for the first spoiler before the big reveal, right? For Ashton Kutcher being the bad guy when they were at Whataburger, right? I didn't like till he was having that conversation with the grandma. Like
Hmm.
I was like, oh man, that sucks that she was, what I mean, that she did OD.
Oh yeah,
Like that, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
that sucks that she OD. Then grandma's like, yeah, but she was a big pillhead. What
yeah.
the what? Wait, what? So
And then
this,
her sisters knew. She's like, the
yeah,
girls told me.
exactly. Like, well, I was like, wait a second. So she was a pillhead. So I was like, because it was almost,
They
it's
all knew.
almost, yeah, it was almost like a true crime podcast of a
Hmm.
movie while making a true crime podcast,
Yeah,
right? Like,
it was so
like
strange.
that's it was so strange, but it was so well done because like you're hooked in of this story that's happening while he's giving you the story that's happening,
Right.
and then the story's happening. You get what I'm saying?
And
Like,
it's happening to him. He's like, oh yeah, the
yeah,
story's happening to him. He thinks
yeah.
he's got
While
the
he's
story.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And then, bro, that scene was, I was like, I didn't see that coming. Like, I was like, okay, like, I knew it wasn't like a conspiracy to have this girl killed. Like, that's
Hmm.
ridiculous. But like the cover up, and then like it gets, it gets more reinforced when they're like where the body was left. It was between
Yeah.
like 8 jurisdictions. Like, why was it between 8 jurisdictions? It was like the Homeland Security, 6 different sheriff's office, police department. You
Four
know what I mean? Like,
jurisdictions. But yeah,
but
her body was found in a spot where all these four jurisdictions sort of
yeah.
intersect, so no one wanted to take responsibility, then they just push
Hmm.
it off to the other one. Oh no, it's local police. No, it's the sheriffs. No, it's DEA or whatever. No, no, it's Homeland or
Yeah.
county. It's like, okay, all right,
Yeah, it was
something's going
so it
on.
was like so like that feeds the whole thing, and you're like following the movie. So like you're thinking, you're watching, it was like, oh, this kind of like a podcast, like the way the
Hmm.
story's going, and then it also adds more to that when like they add the voiceover of his recordings of the podcast,
Hmm.
right, where it gives it that like extra layer. Oh, dude, like
It does
again, the
feel like
water
you're
burn
watching a true crime podcast for sure.
one, yeah, like it wasn't. I didn't see the twist of her actually being an addict, right?
Hmm.
And I've at the end of it, I was like, okay, it makes sense for Ashton Kutcher to be the guy, because he also kind of dresses like a drug dealer, like
Right.
flamboyant. You know what I mean? Like what
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
imagine a drug dealer to dress like, flamboyant and all that shit. So it was so I just that part okay, but I did not see BJ Novak pulling the trigger,
No. No. Not
like
at all.
especially when like the shot is like Ashton Kutcher on the couch, then gets shot in the neck. It wasn't like they show BJ Novak pulling the trigger. All of a sudden,
Hmm.
there's a bullet hole in
Yeah.
Ashton Kutcher's
What?
neck.
Well, you see a whole 2 feet to his left because BJ Novak, even from 5 feet away, missed.
Yeah,
He shoots to the side, he hits the tent, and then the next shot he hits him on the side of the neck. Yeah,
yeah. Oh, dude,
it
it was.
was that definitely caught me off guard. But just like a true crime podcast, they start talking about this entire where her body was laid between these four jurisdictions,
Yep,
and I'm thinking two things. One, I was like, oh, this could be like BJ Novak or his character Ben. She might be There might be something to this. Maybe she was murdered. There might be
yeah,
more than
yeah,
just she OD'd. But I'm also thinking, like, when is the other shoe gonna drop? Like they're setting me up for something. This
yeah,
is just a coincidence. It looks suspicious, but it's a coincidence to just continue the hilarity or this ridiculous wild goose chase. And it is kind of a wild goose chase, and it's funny, but it's actually it shows I want to say, investigative reporting. Like that's what it is.
yeah,
He's doing his
yeah,
detective thing, and he's there as a journalist, and he's looking for the story, and he ends up finding it. Not the one he thought he was going to find, not the one I thought he was going to find, but yeah, I that one I didn't see coming. I saw Ashton Kutcher as being the guy somehow, some way, whether he was obviously he's the main guy. I think the big drug dealer because he
right.
had boxes and boxes of those pills. I mean, how many?
Yeah,
Easy. I
it
mean,
was
millions of dollars. He had
millions.
it stacked.
Yeah,
And so I was like, okay, this is the guy for sure. I was like, no wonder you can have a studio on the outskirts of town where you're making
yeah,
people's dreams come true. Right, sure you
yeah,
are, because you can
yeah,
support it
yeah.
with
You're charging them so
your
much
real
money. Yeah,
business.
you're charging them so much money to afford that, all that land and acreage and the whole studio, like a real studio. Yeah, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, like 100%, 100%,
100%. Look, John
hundred
Mayer,
percent.
by the way, who I was at when he started talking, I'm like, and I realized it was him. I'm like, how long is this guy gonna be in the movie? And he came off as I think people if he's been in the news or tabloids or his relationship stuff, right, has been aired out
Yeah.
over the years,
Hmm.
and I guess he's been made to look like a playboy
Like a
or
yeah, like a
an a-hole
womanizer.
or whatever, and he played that role so perfectly. I'm like, I don't know if he's
Yeah,
acting or if he's just being
yeah.
himself, because that's what
And
he's described as, you know what I mean?
yeah,
it
I
was
thought
it
that was
was
just like
really
a
good.
conversation. I thought that
Yeah.
was just a conversation he was having with BJ Novak. Didn't even know the
And
camera
it
was there.
happened to get filmed, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
100%,
that's how
hundred
it came
percent.
off. It was so
Yeah,
genuine. It was so good. And I don't know if I like him more or I'm like, this guy really is a whatever.
yeah.
It was
You
so
know what?
good. It was such a great
You know
start
what?
to the movie.
You know what I like about it too is like I tell you all the time, like, and we talk about it offline and when we hit record, like I
Yeah.
like it when characters are explained, but not like super delved into, right?
Hmm.
Like the little brother, like, oh, okay, this kid's like, there's something clearly kind, you know what I mean? Like he's a little bit developmentally challenged or whatever, but then like they show you why he's developmentally challenged, and like a
Hmm.
30-second clip where there's like a voice, you know what I mean? Like a recording of the girl, and
Yeah.
like and he's talking like, oh, he likes to sleep with me because he's scared of ghosts, like, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? And that was a quick thing, so like they explained why he's like that, but he's also
Hmm.
not that challenge. He's just young. He's a young kid, and like
He's
the
9.
sisters, yeah, he's 9. So like the younger sisters have their issues, and like, you know what I mean. They also want to be famous, and but hate where they live, but don't want to leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They explain the characters, but without much screen time, but you still know what they're about. Like I appreciate when there's world building without like a fucking complete deviation
Yeah. Yeah. An
of
entire
of the
outline,
yeah, an entire
and it
outline, and
goes
like I need
off
a
the
whole
storyline. Yeah.
yeah, like does like a flashback and like some weird filter, and like
Hmm.
that distracts too much from the movie. So I thought that was really well done. Yeah, man. Like like I didn't see the addiction. Like yes, she got hooked on pills, but like I really thought like it was like, oh, like especially that part with the jurisdiction stuff. That's the thing. I was like, oh wow, okay, so maybe there's something to this.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was really well done, man.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I don't know if I have
I don't got anything else.
anything else. I
Yeah.
thought like I said, that John Mayer and the conversation with him and BJ Novak or Ben
Hmm.
helps explain exactly who he is, right? His shallowness, his self-absorption, and the way that he views the world or his relationships in general. Because when he got that call from her brother, it's like, Abby,
Yeah.
who's Abby? The way he has, like,
There's that
girls
like quote
listed in his
unquote.
phone, like, oh,
Yeah.
it's Nikki from Random House Party, and they're like, is it Random House, the publisher, that they threw a party,
Yeah.
or is it from an
Yeah.
actual random house party you attended?
Yeah.
Let's roll the
Yeah.
dice and find out.
Let's
It's
find
just
out. Yeah. It's that
but yeah.
it gave that BJ Novak or Ben character like that John Mayer esque vibe, right? Like where he's a
Yeah.
womanizer. It also like kind of alluded to like quote unquote male toxicity of like just having girls' numbers in his, you know what I mean? Just having girls' numbers in his phone and not knowing who they are, and how that could kind of, you know what I mean? Like
But it
how
happens
that's
the other
you.
way around too. So I don't
No,
buy
one
into that
hundred
whole
percent.
toxicity thing.
No, I'm
Right.
saying like
Yeah.
his take on it, right?
Hmm.
Because like him being like a f boy, right? Because like he's
Right.
just a dude,
Right.
like he's
That's
just there.
exactly what
He's
he
just
is.
yeah, he's a f boy. Like that's all he is. So it's like okay, like that version of like what people say is male talk. I don't, you know what I mean? Like it happens both ways. I don't give, but it was just it was like he just hits on so many different notes and does it
Hmm.
well. Like what he starts out seeking at the beginning, he doesn't want at the end because look what it cost him. And that dude, like we haven't even talked that lecture, right, or rant that or speech, however you want to call it, that Ashton Kutcher has is so.
At
I
the
don't even
end,
want to like. Yes, don't like.
all of them, really. The one at the beginning
Yeah.
to the girl, then the conversation they have at his
Hmm.
ranch after they leave the
Yeah.
studio, and they're
Yeah.
having this like this deep conversation about the people there are smarter than you think, and they don't get enough credit because of the environment around them, and
Yeah.
so that's what they got to deal with. And then that speech at the end. Yeah, I mean, I didn't mean to cut you off. You can go keep talking,
No.
but
No.
like
No. No.
all those conversations were incredible.
Yeah. Like see, like I like doing this. Like even though this is the spoiler section of the pod, like I don't like giving everything away. Like
Hmm.
we go into a little bit more depth of the show or the movie because we saw it and we want to talk more freely about it. But you have to watch those speeches that Ashton Kutcher gave because even though we told you that yes he's the bad guy quote unquote because he's a drug dealer or that you know what I mean she is an actual addict but she kind of was still murdered, you know what I mean, because
Hmm.
she was not never she was never helped, like somebody's responsible for her death without a doubt besides
Yeah.
herself, right? So, but those speeches and those rants and those lectures that Kutcher gave were phenomenal, bro. When he broke it down, he was like, "We'll probably end up." He goes, "We'll probably end up on a panel in a couple of years
Yeah.
because they're gonna pick a side, and then we'll have to talk about it, and then we'll see." Like, he's like, "This is our thing now. This is." I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy shit, he's right, bro.
That
He's
secret
right."
recording that he had, and instead of
Yeah,
I'm when he pulled out the recorder, like, hey, you thought I wasn't recording, but I got one here. I recorded everything you just
yeah,
said, and and Ashton Kutcher, he plays Quintel. I can't remember his last name. Sellers. But that's when he
Mhm.
goes on that he has this monologue where he talks about like,
Yep.
"Hey, well done. Well
Yep.
done." He's like, "Tell me what you think is gonna happen. You think I'm the bad guy? Maybe at first."
Yep.
But then
Yep.
when the story comes out of why you came down here to make a joke and make this family a bunch of characters,
Mhm.
then they're gonna turn on you. And we're gonna, and then I'll be it was so incredible. And he's right. Like that's
Yes.
what's happening in the
It's
real
100%.
world. That's what
100%.
happens. Everyone turns whatever situation into content, into
And nothing
I don't
matters.
know, their voice, and
Mhm.
nothing matters, right? What was that? What
Nothing.
was that line he dropped? When everything matters, nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
It
Yeah.
was
It's
it
the
was
truth.
something along those lines.
Look,
It was
and on
yeah.
and it's reality, right? Because you go back to like when I was really on social media,
Mhm.
I was angry about everything, right?
Yeah.
Then it got to the point where like if I was it got to that where like all this stuff matters to me, like then nothing matters. If
Right.
everything makes me mad, then nothing makes me mad,
Mhm.
and it just had to become to that point where I was like, nah, it's not. It's if he was sore, I was like, damn you, Ashton Kutcher, you're right.
Yeah.
You pretty bastard. You are 100% right.
I mean, that's why we chose to do
100%.
this podcast, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because we were doing a podcast before speaking about,
everything.
social issues, politics,
Yeah.
a lot of those things that we had that everyone has an opinion on that
Hmm.
are they're polarizing. And we realized, okay, like what is that accomplishing though, except
Nothing.
getting us or the people that listen, but if they agree, they're gonna get riled up. If they don't agree, they're gonna get riled up.
Yep.
It doesn't accomplish anything. Let's
Mm.
let's kind of reevaluate, do something that we enjoy doing, and that's why we do these now. We're
Yeah.
not we're not, with the exception of Wild Wild West, and I did my best to defend the arts
No,
and
get your lens
the
out of here.
and
Get that lens out
lens
of here.
the
No.
lens that the director and the creators were coming were using, which was that of a great steampunk movie. But
Yeah. No.
yeah, we're
No.
not, but even
Hmm.
with this podcast we're not doing what the critics do, which is try to tear down the art.
Yeah.
We go
Yeah.
into it, we might tell you skip it or Wild Wild West it, which means that not, it's gonna have, don't watch it, avoid at all
Yeah.
costs. But we're not going to tell you that it was trash. We'll just tell you like, hey, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. Except for you. You really tried to go hard in the paint against Wild Wild West, and I was defending it.
Mhm.
I was defending
Waste
its
of time.
honor. I had to.
It's a waste of time. I think why the reason why we talk about stream and skip it or well because there's so much content, right? Like we say it in our
Yeah.
intro and all that. There's so much content. Like given we're not gonna watch everything, but we'll watch most things. You know what I mean? And then at some point, people will, our listeners will recommend stuff to us and see what we think and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
for right now, these are movies that these are movies that you have to, are worth a watch. These are shows that are worth a watch. Like yeah, you might be watching something that everybody else is watching, which is cool, like House of Dragon, Rings of Power, and all these big things. But like, there's so many things out there that you might not know what random movies is incredibly entertaining and really well done
Hmm.
because it might not have
Right.
that big star attached to it or anything. BJ Novak isn't a big star. Boyd Holbrook isn't a big star. Nobody in this movie is a big star. Like huge, you know what I mean? Like super A list,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of these people are like that person from that thing, right? Like that's reality. What like Boyd Holbrook's like, oh that guy from Narcos, or oh
He's
that
done
guy
other
from that,
things,
right?
but
But again, see what I'm saying? Like that
yeah,
guy from that thing, right? But they're really good actors
yeah,
and just it's definitely worth a watch, man. 100%.
100%. By the way, speaking of Boyd Holbrook, there's this movie I've been meaning to watch, and they might have taken it off Netflix already. And if not, they're gonna take it off soon. It's called In the Shadow of the Moon. It's
Hmm.
essentially a time travel movie where he sees this woman, and he shoots her like in the subway. He chases her down, but then he like keeps seeing her throughout the years, like she's coming back. And like I did what I always do, which is I spoil the movie for
Read.
myself. I went to Wikipedia and
Yeah.
I read the plot. They should never call that section the plot section in Wikipedia. You know what I'm saying? It says plot, and then it just proceeds to drop 25 paragraphs of from beginning to end. Like, oh, I read that, I don't have to watch the movie, but I still have to
Exactly.
watch it. But I do it to
Yeah.
myself every time. I'm like, let me go read the plot. The first
And
time
you
I read
still
that, when
uh,
someone tells you, when you read plot, you're like, it's gonna describe like what the movie's about. The first time I got on
yeah.
Wikipedia years ago and read the plot section of a movie, I said, well, the hell am I gonna watch the movie for now? You guys might want to rename this. Like, spoiler
Well.
alert.
Yo,
Here
that
is
well
the
was-
movie line by line.
Uh.
Here's the script. Read. So,
That
but I
well.
did. I do that about every movie. I go and do that. I read the plot, and I'm like, oh, it's like a nice little short novel, like a short story. I like it. Let me watch the movie version now.
So that well hit different right there. You go well.
Well, yeah,
right,
I'm
man.
good, man. Have anything else
All
on
right,
this movie?
watch the movie.
Great. Watch it.
100%.
100%.
100%. All right, guys. Catch you next time. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Streamophile. Directed by John. Executive producer Ben and John. Created by Ben and John. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.